The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, The Heiress. So, this is an amazing episode. This is my favorite episode of the season so far. Of course, there's only 3. It's also the shortest episode, unfortunately. Something I've noticed is that it seems like as they kind of ramp up, like, how serious things are per episode, they end up being shorter. Because, like, the first episode, of course, it was also the introduction to the season. So, it was like, we gotta kind of give everybody an hour-long episode. So, we had, like, he goes to this random town we've never heard of. We get an actual full backstory for the sheriff in town and, like, how he got the Mandalorian armor, which they could have done a simple exposition, but they were like, we're going to make a full hour-long episode, so we're going to do, like, his full-on flashback. They did, like, a bunch of stuff where I was like, we got more than I would have expected from, most things in general, most shows in general, where it's like, oh, here's the random character. He could have just said, yeah, this happened, and then I got the armor, but they did, like, a full flashback. So it was like, you could tell they're starting to streamline stuff. In this episode, oddly enough, I was fine with it. I was like, I didn't even notice how short it was, because I was, like, geeking out the whole effing time, because Bo-Katan is now officially live action, and I lost my effing mind. Because I don't know if we knew that. Of course we knew the Ahsoka Tano thing. I heard Sabine may or may not come in. Right before I started doing this review, I legitimately realized, I was like, holy crap, this is after, this being, of course, after Return of the Jedi. What if they talk about Ezra? This is Star Wars Rebels fans. For anyone who doesn't watch, the animated shows, Star Wars Rebels. Ahsoka is in that. Excuse me. Obviously, she was in Clone Wars as well. So, if for whatever reason, if you're watching this and you have not watched both of those shows, you are missing out. Like, you're seriously missing out. Especially the final season of Clone Wars when they brought it back on Disney Plus. You gotta at least watch that. Like, you have to at least watch, if not even that whole full season, you just have to watch those final 4 episodes. Like, the last episode premiered on Star Wars Day this year is like, it is gonna go down in history as one of the best Star Wars days ever, because that was an amazing moment. But it was a great episode. Like, anything with Mandalorians, that's my favorite stuff. I mentioned that every time something Mandalorian-based happens, in the other shows, of course, this is obviously all Mandalorian. But I always say it, I'm like, the Mandalorian lore is actually my favorite part of Star Wars. As much as I love the Jedi and I love lightsabers, who doesn't? The Mandalorian stuff is, like, my favorite part. Like, they're just all badass people. I mean, obviously this episode showed it. It was like, there's got to be, like, 10 people, maybe more. And it's like, there's only 4, and then they're Mandalorians. It's like, oh, okay, that's why we're fucked. Like, that's how cool they are. And then you have the Darksaber and, like, how that's coming into play. And, like, so many things came into my head with this. Because I'm like, okay, Bo-Katan, she is now officially in live action. I mentioned this, with the Darksaber. Like, once something's live action, they make more figures. So I'm still waiting for that. Once they do, like, the Black Series and it's, like, the $150 version, instantaneous. That's an automatic buy. So I was like, all right, that's happening. Bo-Katan is now real. Or I shouldn't say real, but Bo-Katan is now, they have an actual live action actress. Ahsoka Tano, they're going to have the same thing. Sabine may or may not be in it. They might reference Ezra. That would be super cool, because that would kind of give us an idea of, like, what is the plan for that? Because, not John Favreau, Dave Filoni, he's the one who did Clone Wars and did Rebels, and obviously he's working on this. He's the Star Wars guy right now. So he might just throw that in for, like, hey, my people who pay attention, and watch Rebels and stuff like that. Here's a reference to, and maybe hints as to, what they found and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if they're going to reference it at all. They might just stick to the Mandalorian stuff. But he might throw something in there, like, hey, I have a concept for this. Here's just a clue. And, that might not be for, like, another year and a half, or who knows how long when they decide to do that, if it'll be live action or, a sequel series to Rebels or something like that. But either way, they could now. And so I was like, that's amazing. I don't know if we should expect that. But, got my hopes up. And then I was like, well, she's live action and she's looking for the Darksaber, which also explains, because they talked about, the main villain. They talked about it even when, I think it was before the last season actually ended, where they mentioned season 2 and some of the stuff that was happening. It was like, yeah, there's going to be, like, a lightsaber fight, which would probably involve Ahsoka. And, of course, her going up against our big bad villain with the Darksaber. So there's a million things to look forward to, I feel, with this season. But I was like, man, what if we actually see them go to Mandalore? Like, they already they did something really great in this episode where, they come up to him and, he's like, okay, I was looking for you guys. And they take their helmets off. And he's like, what the F is going on here? You guys aren't Mandalorians. You took your helmets off. And so they're like, oh, he's one of them. He's one of the, adopted kids of the Watch. And that's the Night Watch, which are the bad guys, if anyone didn't know that. So the Night Watch, who are the people in those flashbacks, they're seen as, like, the villains, if you want, once again, Clone Wars. So they're seen as, like, the bad guys. And it was like, you know what? When they actually said it, it made a ton of sense to me. Because I just assumed when they picked them up, it was like, okay, this was just during the time when they were cool. But even then, they were already separated. And it was like, that makes a ton of sense because they're the angry guys. To put it like very simply, they're the guys who want it to be like, Mandalorian. When it started off, it was just pure violence, chaos, survival of the fittest type stuff, and then it's like, all right, it's gotten a bit more realistic, and a little bit calmer, and that's kind of where Bo-Katan comes in, and her sister. Once again, gotta watch Clone Wars for that. And so it's become a bit more realistic where it's like, okay, we're not just going to be like absolute pandemonium and just, scour across the galaxy and killing everybody because we're that cool. They could, but over time people are like, we shouldn't do that. Like, let's not do that so much. But they might go to Mandalore. I don't know. Like, it just makes sense. She's looking for the Darksaber. Like, if you have the Darksaber, you're basically in control of the planet and you, like, lead the Mandalorians. I don't know if they're going to do anything with the whole Night Watch stuff, but that was kind of always their thing. Like, they were the more violent people. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but there's just a whole bunch of possibilities. And it's like, oh, they're kind of standoffish a little bit because he's not, he's a Mandalorian, but because he's a part of like the Night Watch stuff, he's in like more of a cultist side of it. And I was like, that's such a cool way to do it. And I never thought of it because, like I said, even in the flashback, and it's always hard for me to keep up like the timelines of everything with the way they do it with the flashbacks and stuff. So I was like, I just assumed the fact that they were helping, if I'm being totally honest, that's why I just assumed that they were the good guys. So I was like, all right, if they're actually helping, then this must have been before they kind of like split off and went crazy. That was not the case. So I love that idea. I was like, I never thought that would be a thing. And like, that's how that sect of Mandalorians goes, where it's like, oh, you can't take off your helmet. Because I'm like, that's really interesting. Watch Clone Wars and Rebels. They're just like, they're popping their helmets off left and right. So now it makes a ton of sense. So I love that. I love that idea. I love that they kind of actually talked about that and they had him kind of confront literally like the main bloodline of the Mandalorian. She's literally the princess right now. Actually, technically, she's the queen. It's just, it's a little chaotic. So she kind of needs her weapon to be like, yo, this is what's happening right now. I would love to see them explain exactly how... Moff Gideon. Yes, there it is. Moff Gideon. I was trying to remember his name so bad. I would love to see a flashback or something of how he ended up with the Darksaber, because the last time we saw it was in Star Wars Rebels, and that was a super long time ago, technically speaking, because this, being after the end of Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Rebels was before A New Hope, and then like the final series, they do like or the final episode of the series, they do a giant time skip until after Return of the Jedi, and then so that's kind of where we are right now. Whereas, like, okay, we don't know what happened with Ezra, and then they're, Sabine and Ahsoka are the ones going on a search for him, just wherever he ended up in space. So that's why I mentioned, like, oh, they could talk about that because it's within that time frame. So I thought that was great, but I'm excited. Like, that was the last time we saw it, and that was pre-New Hope. It was in between, the original and prequel trilogies, and that was the last time we saw the Darksaber, and Sabine, went back, and it's just all amazing. All that stuff was fantastic, and that was kind of the last time we saw it. It was like, okay, this is where the Darksaber is. I think it was back on Mandalore. And the Siege of Mandalore was in Clone Wars, so that was before Rebels happened. So that was the last time we canonically saw it. As far as I know, I'm sure there's millions of comics, but I think as of now, this is like the Mandalorian storyline right now. And so that was the last time we saw it. And poof, the Empire has it. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I'm excited to see it. So I love the episode. They were just strolling through, blasting people left and right. They all looked amazing. As soon as they first came in to help them on the ship, I was like, this is super awesome. Because as soon as she dropped down, I was like, that's her. Because she dual wields. So I knew it was her, and plus the paint on her helmet. So I loved the whole thing. Was just absolutely amazing. I was like, they just need to do another show where it's just like maybe just that trio or just I was like, I just want like a show where it's just a group of Mandalorians doing whatever they want to do. I just want to see that because I love the Mandalorian so much. But it was amazing. The action was good. They destroyed a bunch of stormtroopers, which was funny. They referenced, they couldn't hit the side of a bantha. So I was like, okay, yeah. And they even did that, in this, I think it was the season finale last season, where it was like they're literally just trying to shoot something that's right on the ground. It was like, like it must be the gun, or the blaster. Don't freak out on me. But I thought it was great. I love the episode. It's more Mandalorians coming in. They did it twice. They helped them on the ship, and they were just that hardcore. They took everybody out. They're doing, tripping people and then just blasting them and stabbing them and stuff. And it's like, we got to get the child. And it's like, don't worry, brother, we got this. And she just dives in, kills this big monster, pops up and just rips the thing up. It's like, boom, he's safe. No big deal. We're Mandalorians. And then he's like, oh, I'm out of here. And they blow up the ship. And so then, he gets attacked the second time. And they come in and help him. And then they're just like, boom, 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 and they just start shooting everybody. And I was like, this is so sweet. I can't help it when it's more Mandalorians. It's like the episode. I think it was episode 3 of the first season. That might be their thing. Like every third episode is going to be like an epic, team up, Mandalorian team up moment. But I do believe it was episode 3 last season, which probably is still that's probably still my number 2 moment. Because it was the first time it happened, and I just wasn't expecting it, and all the Mandalorians came in, and just like it was hard not to love that. But it's still the season finale moment with him in that dark saber. Like I cried. So this might be my number 3 moment because it just looked cool, and they drop in and they're shooting everybody, then they take out the ship and stuff. It was great. It was fantastic, and then ultimately they succeed. We get to see the guy kill himself with basically Star Wars cyanide, which is I guess like an electric tooth instead of just a cyanide capsule. So he like electrocutes himself and he's out. I was like, huh, the random things you don't see in Star Wars. So I thought that was a cool little bit of canon they added. But all in all, I love the episode. I don't know if he's actually gonna get to Ahsoka in the next one, because I was really shocked. I was like, when she said it was like, go exactly here and boom, you'll find Ahsoka Tano. Considering the ship at the end, which was utterly hilarious, by the way. Like as soon as they showed, I was like, is that like string, like just Teflon wire all over the place? And then he gets in the actual like cockpit. I was like, he put more garbage in there, like he put more strings on, and I guess technically he was still fixing it up because when they were crashing, going into the atmosphere, things were starting to shake apart. But I was like, he put more crap in, and it's just strings and stuff all over the place. I'm like, he literally put nets on the seat, and I was like, I'm pretty sure the seats were good enough, and he just like threw nets on them. I was just like, that's weird. I think they were technically new seats as well. And I was like, I think the seats, like some of that stuff that was switched, I was like, I think that was okay. And he just trashed it anyway. And I'm like, that's really weird. And it's funny. So I don't know if he's going to get a new ship or what the case is going to be, but I don't know if we should expect him to get to Ahsoka in the very next episode with the way the ship is going. I love the way it ended it too. Like when they go into hyperspeed, like a piece of the ship is like left behind, kind of just spinning around. I was like, that's super funny. And I like the way they did it. So I don't think we'll actually get Ahsoka in the very next episode. That would be super cool. But I think that like you got one of your Clone Wars / Rebels characters in. Although actually, I don't know if she was in Rebels. I'm sure she had to have shown up, but maybe she didn't. Maybe she did. Maybe it was just Sabine's family at the time. But it was just really good. I was just like, the way they handled it, the whole episode, utterly amazing. So we got our live action character. This time they might save it, and we'll get like a little space in between where, like I said, he has to get a new ship or whatever. And then, in 2 weeks, we'll get to have Ahsoka show up, and that'll be great. And maybe we'll get a cool action sequence there. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm excited to see how they do it. I want to see, like, how they do the makeup and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what they do. I want to see her with the lightsabers. I don't know if we'll actually see her fight or anything like that. I don't know if they'll have it where as soon as we see her, she'll have, like, the cloak like she did in Rebels, because she had, like, it was kind of like a beige cloak. It was kind of like the Jedi outfit a little bit, where it's sort of beige, but it was just a full-on cloak, and it covered, I forgot what they're actually called, but like the tendrils that she has. I think they have a very specific name. They definitely do, because everything does in Star Wars. But I'm looking forward to it. Love the episode, obviously. Like, it's more Mandalorians. That's all I need. And they killed a bunch of stormtroopers. They even sucked a bunch out of an airlock, which is really funny. He's like, so where do you have them? It's like in the cargo control, and then they just get sucked out. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. But love the episode. I would love to know what you guys thought about it. As far as Ahsoka showing up, do you think we'll actually see her in the next episode? Do you think they'll do a space in between? They have an easy out, definitely because of the ship. Even if they go like straight towards the planet, anything could happen. Just like in the last episode, like they were just strolling along, and then boom, here comes some X-wings. So anything could randomly happen, even if he's going at hyperspeed. Anything could randomly happen, especially with the ship falling apart. They could easily have it where just it goes on for an extra episode. But I would love to know your thoughts and theories and hopes and all that good stuff. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.